Live from New York, it's the show that was invited to Michael Rubin's party, but chose not to go.
You weren't supposed to tell people that.
Well, because we were working.
They're going to get
invited next year.
Well, yeah. We start with a report from Mark Spears that Jayson Tatum is trying to get Dame to Boston. Here's what the scoring duo would look like. Dame led the league with 40-point games.
I think it's 15 40-point games.
No, that's a mistake. It was a new record.
Okay.
We'll correct it. It was actually 15 40-point games, Josh was just telling me. Brew, how dangerous would a Tatum, Damian Lillard duo be?
They would be dynamic. They would be awesome. And look, I understand they're already the favorites in the East, but I'm going to put it this way. They would be the real favorites.
And they're the favorites right now in the whole league.
But a lot of us are like, why is Boston keep being favored to win everything? If they get Dame, I believe we all definitely say they're the favorites in the East. And I think most pundits would go that route. And you'd have to give them a great chance, obviously, to win the whole thing. But look, I think they'd be phenomenal. One of their biggest weaknesses is clutch play. We know that's been the last few years for them. They don't have a ball handler who's a great decision maker. So Tatum and Brown end up handling the ball, and they make a lot of turnovers. Dame, for his career, is below 3 turnovers a game. So he's a good decision maker, even though he's not like that prototypical great vision point guard necessarily. He is a great decision maker, doesn't turn the ball over for the most part, and we know can hit clutch jump shots. So at the end of games, you're not turning the ball over as much, and you're more versatile because Tatum is dynamic and Dame's dynamic, and you still have a few other shooters around them. So I think this would be great for them if they could get it done.
So I mostly agree with that, but I don't think it's as simple and straightforward as most people believe, because it would be a massive identity shift. The best 3 players on the Boston Celtics, the most decorated 3 players on the Boston Celtics as of the end of this season were Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. Right? Marcus Smart won a Defensive Player of the Year award. You just traded Marcus Smart, whose identity was toughness and defense, for Kristaps, who, while maybe is a slightly underrated defensive player, you did it for his offense and his floor spacing, and nobody would call him he's not an NBA tough guy. He's more of a finesse player. You would then be trading Jaylen Brown, who his skill set is two-way guard or two-way wing player, a very good defender, good offensive player, toughness, for Dame, whose biggest weakness is defense purely because of his size, not because he dogs it on that end. But so you now
Although he's
totally
not like getting after it.
He's not necessarily getting after it, but my point is, even if he were at 6'1.5", you're going to be limited defensively. You are totally changing the lifeblood and the makeup of this team, and you're doing it on the fly. You're doing it when you were, once Milwaukee went out, the massive favorites to win the conference. This year come the playoffs. Huge favorites over Miami. You had just been to the finals. It also does warrant mentioning the Dame straight up for Jaylen Brown trade does not work. Boston has to include another real salary in that. So is it Al Horford? Well, now you're giving up, and now he's very old, but more defense. Is it Brogdon? I guess maybe if Portland would want him.
Brogdon would be good for Portland.
But sure, a veteran point guard. But it's not a one-for-one. You would be losing something else out there. And so, again, I would do it. But I don't think it is as, and I'm not trying to rehash the Miami conversation right now, it's not as seamless as a Miami trade where you're not taking away one of a Bam or a Jimmy, one of their key contributors.
I do agree in the shift in philosophy, but I think that came under Mazzulla.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
He clearly is more offense. You still have Derek White, who I think supplanted.
Excellent. Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart is the best defender. He made all defensive team. Robert Williams and Kristaps, who is a good rim protector. So that's still, and I think they should bring back Grant Williams. I know he kind of fell in Missoula's doghouse, but I think they got enough toughness and defenders to make
at Michael Rubin's party. I talked to him there.
Can we stay here real quick before we move to the Jaylen Brown part of this?
I'm going to play you a piece of sound, too.
Oh, okay, go ahead then.
You want to play that first?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, here was Chris Haynes with Dan Patrick when asked about Dame to Boston. Take a listen. So I don't know how much, how serious we should take this rumor if Chris Haynes, who has been locked in this Dame reporting, is just straight up laughing about it.
So that's what I wanted to ask Brew. One of the things I wanted to ask Brew was you have been adamant that the Blazers shouldn't try to stick it to Dame,
right?
But his wants and needs and aspirations can't be at the top of their board.
A good move for them too.
Right, and I understand that argument. From the flip side of it, though, if you were running the Boston Celtics, let's say they confirm on their own that Chris Haynes' laughter means exactly what we think it means. Damian Lillard does not want to go to Boston for whatever reason, whether it's the weather, the reputation of the city, maybe whatever it is, doesn't want to go there. Would you still be comfortable in trading away a major asset in Jaylen Brown, which you could get maybe a different star for or keep and rehab that relationship for a guy if he says, I don't want to live and play in Boston?
If this were to get serious, then they would get permission from Portland to talk with Dame.
Sure.
And if Dame, if you talk with him and his agent, Aaron Goodwin, and they're just like, whatever their reason, he just hates Boston. He will not be happy there. You won't get the best out of him, or you won't get the best out of me, or whatever it is. Then that certainly makes you rethink it.
Okay.
But I think if they sit down with Dame and see, and I would actually try to get a Kevin Garnett to speak to him, because Garnett didn't want to go to Boston. And a lot of players' concern about Boston is the racial reputation of the city.
Yeah, well earned.
And so you get these, and it's America. It's racism everywhere in America, including Portland. All right, so I think he's from Oakland too. They got a little bit of racial history there too. So Dame is from Portland or Oakland. Yeah. So I'm saying you have these guys, because Garnett and others, Pierce, love playing there. And so I think what you have to sell Dame on is not the basketball fit, because he's smart. He knows that's a good one. But the city, the fans, the culture of the organization, what it's like to play for this. You have to sell him on all that. Now, if he's adamant, but I understand and I agree with Chris that he doesn't want to play there. But that doesn't mean he won't play there and won't play well.
Question for you, bro. So at that meeting, if Aaron Goodwin and Dame are like, he doesn't want to do it, and then there's another meeting, let's say with Philadelphia, and doesn't want to do it, and then there's another meeting doesn't want to go there, to just drive home, hey man, I only want to play for the Heat, so let's stop with all these other trades and call Pat Riley and get it done. Can he just say that to every team? Yeah,
see, I think Portland has some power in this, because they can be like, look, we're not, if we don't get a great deal from Miami, we're not sending you there. Now, maybe at some point they just have to buckle, or maybe not. Like I said yesterday, I think they can sit down and talk about a compromise. Yeah. Like, Dame, we won't send you to Utah if you adamantly don't want to go there. We don't think they'd be a contender. We get it. But there are some contenders that want you, and we like their deals better than Miami. I think he has to give a little too.
I also think that the clock is not ticking on this at all right now, because I know we joked about it yesterday about the rookie for Miami, Jaime Jaquez Jr., who played well in Summer League, and also, as you mentioned, incredibly handsome fella, that he's not eligible to be traded for 27 more days because he just signed his contract. We all think whatever the Miami package is, he's going to likely be in it. So because even if they agreed on a trade, it couldn't officially happen until I think July 31st or July 30th, something like that. I do think there is not the sense of urgency of we have to hammer it out right now, because even if where Dame wants to go, that team likely can't execute a trade until essentially
they
the very
do
beginning
have
of
time.
August.
Yeah. Just one correction. There is a sense of urgency from a sports content point of view.
Okay, yeah, that is.
Like, we need things to happen.
Yeah, no, that is
true. The second week we've been discussing this. Jaylen
Dame
Brown.
hypotheticals.
How about we did Dame to the Spurs? Jaylen Brown still hasn't signed a Supermax extension that he's eligible for. Media reports out of Boston consistently say it's not a huge deal. But Jaylen has been eligible to sign this deal since July 1st, and we haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah.
So, Nick, how should he feel about this Dame trade talk?
Fed up. And I'm not going to say what Brew's going to say because I don't like when he does that, so I'm not going to do it to him. I know there are some belief of just be a professional, show up, and no matter what, like this part of the business. In 2018, there was credible reports that the Boston Celtics were shopping Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard. In 2019, there were credible reports that the Boston Celtics were shopping Jaylen Brown for Anthony Davis. In 2020, there were what I would say rumors that Jaylen Brown, that the Celtics were calling the Houston Rockets after Harden put on the fat suit and it looked like he was being traded, and Jaylen Brown was the centerpiece of that. When it looked like Ben Simmons was never going to play for the Sixers again before his value had plummeted entirely, the Celtics were tied to him, and the assumption was
I don't remember that
I looked
Ben
it all
Simmons?
up this morning. That now again,
That one didn't seem to have as much
that one
traction,
didn't seem
though.
to have as much traction. But I'm saying if you're Jalen, so in 2022 we all know, and it was reported, he was offered in a Kevin Durant trade this time last year, and now he is the centerpiece of Damian Lillard rumors. I mean, that is 6 straight years. And now you can make the argument that aside from Ben Simmons, all of those guys at that time were better players than Jaylen Brown.
Absolutely.
So you know what? That's how it works. But guys get sick of it, especially when you know who is never in trade rumors? Jayson Tatum. And Anthony Davis in 2019 and Kawhi Leonard in 2018 and hell, even James Harden in 2020 and certainly Kevin Durant a year ago, they're better than Tatum too. And he's never mentioned. And Jaylen got there first to Boston.
Right.
So right or wrong, I would imagine he's sick of it, which is why I believe Boston entertaining this Dame stuff, unless they are confident we're going to get him, is a very risky maneuver because it is now another year where the whole speculation is where's Jaylen Brown going to live? Who's he going to play for? And so I would imagine he doesn't feel great about it. That's my answer.
Yeah, look, and I get a lot of what you said. I'm going to look at it from the Tatum's, like how would he feel about Tatum? Okay, because this is not a report that the Celtics have made an offer or are thinking about making an offer. This seems to be Jayson Tatum. Now, I'm sure he talks with the organization, but this is basically him on his own, probably knowing, look, if we can get Dame, I'm sure Brad Stevens and these guys are with it, right? So I think he's on his own, like, hey, man, you should come play with us, all that. And look, obviously, if you're Jaylen Brown, you don't like that. But Jayson Tatum's story has got to be, I'm talking about bringing him here with me and you still here.
Okay. Yeah, that's
that has to remain his story. Because here's the thing. I'm sure Dame isn't like, well, who would y'all trade for me? I don't think they're getting that deep. I doubt Tatum is like, well, we would trade Jaylen Brown for you. I think it's just like, look, man, you come here, we are winning the chip.
That's right.
And so, you know what I'm saying? So I think you just have to deny.
Well, that's fine, but and listen, I like the deny life philosophy as much as anybody. However, there's an element of, wait, we've been here before. I today went back when I was trying to look up all the places that Jalen had been rumored to. Jalen told Logan Murdoch that last summer he initiated a 3-way call with Tatum and Brad Stevens about, hey guys, what's up with the Kevin Durant stuff? Now, and so he was like, yeah, I just felt we needed to clear the air because what was being reported there was that Tatum was recruiting Durant. And now it's being reported that Tatum is recruiting Lillard. This is
But again, and I'm not telling.
Hey,
What's up with these reports?
you guys on? It's me, Jason.
I mean, again, though, in fairness, and I'm not telling Tatum to lie. In fairness, I doubt he and Dame are going down the NBA trade machine talking about it'll be this and this and this. It's just, look, let's get you here. Because here's the truth. Whether they get him there with or without Jalen still there, and obviously it'll probably be without Jalen, they still would be a great team.
I agree.
So he can just sell them on, hey,
but they're
you
the
come
favorites
join us
right now.
I know.
That's if you're Jaylen Brown.
But you're not that confident in him. How much more would you be confident in them if they got Dame instead of Jalen?
I think I would believe in them more because I think they need to shake the snow globe. But I also think that, a team that all of its success or so much of its success came between defensive and toughness, who's now you're weak defensively on the perimeter, and your interior defense is Kristaps, who is injury prone, Horford, who's older than me, and Robert Williams, who's super injury prone.
But I don't think you're weak on the perimeter other than Dame. Tatum's
you're
fine.
weak. I should say
Derek
weaker.
White's
Not that you're weak.
Grant
you are
Williams.
weaker having lost Smart and Brown.
Just quickly before we move on, if this did happen, whose team would this be? Do you think it would be Tatum's team, or do you think Dame comes in older, more established? He'd have the ball. You think it'd be Tatum? I think it'd be Dame's team.
It might be kind of like KD, Devin Booker. It's still Tatum's team, but
I'm the best.
Dame is.
Except Tatum
the Warriors were still Steph's team.
I know, but Tatum is as accomplished individually and more accomplished as a team guy. Andy was there already. Tatum's been to a finals, Dame hasn't. Right. Tatum's first team All-NBA the last couple of years, Dame not.
You can argue he's just as good as Dame, if not better.
Yeah, I think most people would argue that. Yeah, so it's a weird spot.
I don't think it would be a discussion, though. You just go out and play, Wild.
Just go out and play.
It'd be Dame's.
Yeah, we didn't have that.
It'd be Dame's team. Miami's still in the driver's seat, but Philly has an outside chance. Windhorst noting that if the Sixers offered Maxey, Dame might be in Philly by now.
Yeah.
I was like, visiting? Like, no, actually a member of the 76ers. Your reaction, Nick?
Yeah, I think one thing Brew's been, I think, 100% correct on is of the realistic offers, Philly can likely construct the best one because Maxey is 22 years old, a 40% three-point shooter, and has improved each year. Those are the same reasons why it looks like Philly does not yet, and I don't know if they will ultimately, want to offer him up. Mm-hmm. Is Damian Lillard better than Tyrese Maxey? Yes. Is he so much better to offset an 11-year age difference and these facts? Tyrese Maxey, assuming Philly does give him a max contract next offseason.
Yeah.
The next 6 years of Tyrese Maxey, this year and then the next 5, will cost $210 million. Would be $210 million. The next 4 years is $120 million for Tyrese Maxey. Dame's next 4 years is $214. So you'd have him for 6 years for less than you'd have Dame for 4, and it's just, his young 20s into his prime as opposed to Dame on the back end. And you can't do Tyrese plus picks for Dame. You almost assuredly have to include Tobias Harris to make the money work. And while Harris, we can say, he makes too much, he's a useful player. He's a good player.
He's very good.
And so, yes, good. So I just
great taste in cookies.
Would I do it if I were Daryl? I think so. But I don't think it's easy, no doubt. Oh, you're insane if you don't because of the age and the money and all of it.
Here's why I would do it. As we've talked about a few times on this show, if you make that trade and you have to include Tobias Harris, who you still want, you trade Harden. Now, Harden and Dame could play together.
Or do you keep Harden?
But I look at trading, because for depth, I look at trading Harden to the Clippers for 3 role players, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris, and whatever. Mm-hmm. All right, so I think you're fine there. And here's the thing, Nick. Joel Embiid, people think the clock is ticking on his tolerance of being or patience in Philadelphia, okay? But on top of that, guess what else is ticking? His body clock. We would have to agree he's an old 29. Right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a way of how much longer does he have to be at this level? He's an old 29. He's always on the ground, and half the time he's banged up. Playing, but banged up, right? In the playoffs, he's even missing a few games. All right, so I might only have 4 years left of Joel, if that, at this level.
Sure.
So let me go get Dame. We've been knocking on the door for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Let me go get Dame, and we go hard in the paint for these 4 years and try to win it. And I think they got to have a better chance of getting the championship. And if it costs us Maxey and the next few years after we win it, if that's your thinking, then fine. But we got to go get a championship.
Well, I've got good news for you.
better.
You know who agrees with you? Pat Bev, newest Philadelphia 76. That's next on FS1. And the Fox Sports Channel on Sirius XM.
It is July if Pat Bev's making the first half hour of the show. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.